Morning, everybody. I'm Lee Nelson along with Sharon Rose Vasnes. This is our extended Storm Center coverage this morning. We've been talking to our crews outside because it's been crazy outside. It's nice and cozy in here, but it's been crazy outside. Let's go back outside. What do you think?
Yeah, let's do that, and let's check road conditions with Corey Frumpkin, who is in Stormy, driving around. How is it, Corey? Still pretty dicey, I would imagine.
You know what, Sharon? It's not too bad, but we actually made it to the beach here, and roads coming in, still looking at snow-covered roads. But I'm going to switch around. We're going to do a few camera shots here of Wells Beach. There we go. Okay, let's go ahead and show you just how big these waves are right now. I mean, we are looking at very high seas. The water is angry this morning, and we are looking at tides. Let's go ahead and look at those real quick. We actually went by the morning low tide already. That was at 6:27 this morning. And then the next high tide will be 12:40 this afternoon. So we are seeing that water, beginning to creep back up just a little bit more. So maybe some minor coastal splash over, maybe some minor coastal flooding you might be seeing in those lower lying areas. And as Tom pans around slowly here, you can see just how high those waves are. We're looking at massive waves out there right now in the water. So it's great to look at. It's great to, maybe come out and maybe take some pictures here right along by the fences. But as that storm continues, that center of low pressure continues to strengthen out there, these waves are just kicking up and they're just being pushed right on shore. And once again, high tide will actually be coming up here at 12:40 this afternoon. So we might be looking at a little bit more of some more active wave action, a little bit closer to the coast than what we're seeing now. But it's pretty cool to look at, and it's also a very angry water or ocean out there right now. So we'll continue to update you here from the Wells area, and we'll have more coming up in just a little bit. Back to you guys.
All right, sounds good. Thank you, Corey.
All right, so we got the southern coast covered. How about the down east coast, or a little bit inland from there, Ellsworth? Zach Blanchard is there live. What you dealing with now, Zach?
We're still dealing with the snow coming down and these winds whipping on occasion too. And we've seen a number of plow crews continuing to stay out in full force. Some people braving the roads here. And it's definitely rough conditions. The crews here say they're glad. They're taking advantage of this time, though, this snow day in downtown Ellsworth, where all of these shops are closed, city offices are closed, to really do a good job and clean up the roads and get ahead of it where there aren't cars in their way, where there aren't people parked on the sides of the roads. I actually just talked, they even have the sidewalk plow out, and I talked to the sidewalk plow operator who says that's exactly why they're out right now in full force, is to do the cleanup now while people aren't out on these roads. And of course, that's something that's happening all across the state right now. And as you can see, though, these roads, they're getting there. They're definitely keeping up with them. If you look down here, it's still packed onto the roads quite a bit. And as it goes, it's just putting that light, fluffy layer on top. So as we've been saying, plow crews across the state are continuing to just make sure they're keeping up with this snow as it continues to come down. Again, the biggest concern that continues is this wind that you can see right now that they're battling. And the sidewalk plow operator that we spoke to, he said his biggest problem today was the visibility. So if you're out on the roads for any reason, please take it slow. If you can, please stay home because of that visibility. The wind just comes in random waves, and you could just wipe up onto your windshield, and that's what's really causing the concerns out here today. Lee and Sharon.
Thank you.
We can see that the whiteout conditions have developed and gotten worse and worse as the morning has gone on there.
All right, Todd Gutner joins us now. Todd, you got a new high total from somewhere?
I do, and I actually have a picture to prove it. Let's take a look. This one's from Great Island. Great Island is in the town of Harpswell. So if you take Route 24 and go south from Brunswick, Cook's Corner area, you'll first run into Great Island, and then you'll cross over a cool bridge that takes you to Orr's Island, and then you'll cross over the Cribstone Bridge, also a cool bridge that takes you to Bailey Island, and that's Route 24. And there's a picture of it. A little over 20 inches from Tom Hill. He sent that to me a little while ago. And this is what it actually looks like, from a distance, so you get a better perspective. This pic is from Bailey Island, actually, Sue Favre. And that's a beautiful view. I bet it's gorgeous in the summertime. She's got a front row seat to this nasty nor'easter. with that snow piling up on all of her deck furniture. So let's give you a wide view here of the large nor'easter that's out here in the Gulf of Maine. The center of the circulation is probably right in here, and I'm interested to see some visible satellites coming up here in the next couple of hours, because I wouldn't be shocked if we see like a little eye form on this storm as it's really cranking away now and getting really strong. The expected minimum pressure with this storm is going to be somewhere in the 960s, close to 970, which is essentially equivalent to a Category 2 hurricane. Now, I'm not saying we're going to get Category 2 hurricane winds, but the pressures are similar and equatable, which is pretty powerful. So we'll see if that thing forms an eye later today. I also want to point out this huge band that extends from Sable Island, which is this little piece of land. You can see that dot on the map, just to the south and east of Nova Scotia and to the due south there of Newfoundland. And Sable Island is notorious for just getting pummeled by nor'easters, and this one's going to do it too. But that plume of moisture extends from the northern Atlantic all the way through Nova Scotia, New Brunswick, and then into northern Maine. And the National Weather Service office in Caribou just released a statement saying that band that goes into northern Maine is putting down snowfall rates of 3 to 4 inches per hour. And that section of 95 from like Island Falls to Holton is probably a whiteout. And it's probably exceptionally dangerous. So don't even venture out in that area right now. Wait till that band starts to collapse later on. So as this storm wraps up, our attention is starting to shift now to the wind. And so far we've been okay. So far winds gusts have been less than 40. Portland 38, Bangor 37. You can see the gusts there in Bar Harbor and Rockland are at 31. A gust to 32 in Millinocket and 33 in Calais. Not enough to create significant damage, thankfully, and not enough to create significant power outages, thankfully. Hopefully those numbers stay in that less than 40 mile per hour range. I also wanted to give you an update on the coastal flood situation. Corey Frumkin touched base on it a little bit there with the next high tide coming in during the middle of the day, specifically 1240 for Portland, 1230-ish for Booth Bay, and about 1245 for York. And up the coastline, I'll show you when the high tides are expected here. Camden, about 1225. Bar Harbor, 1218. Jonesport, 1212. Now, our tides are running astronomically high. They're running at about 10 feet right now because of the recent full moon. I just checked some gauges there, some tidal gauges. The Portland gauge is showing already a storm surge of about 1.1 feet. So that could get us up to flood stage, which is about 12 feet in Portland. So I'm thinking right now we'll see minor coastal flooding, we'll see splashover, and there will be some beach erosion too, especially on the south beaches and the south coast and those areas that kind of face to the north or face to the northeast. So we'll be focused on that over the next few hours. We still got some time. The tide is still out there a ways. But once we get closer to lunchtime in the lunch hour, that water's going to be rising. I checked offshore buoys. All buoys right now are showing wave heights between 10 and 15 feet. And they're expected to grow a little bit too. They may top 15 footers later on. And if you have a storm surge of 1.5 feet, which we're really close to, and a tide already at 10.3, so you do the math, you're at 11.8. And flood stage is 12. You throw some waves on top of that, you're probably going to get some of that splashover, as I mentioned. All right, let's shift gears a little bit and bring in colleague Keith Carson. It's not easy getting Keith Carson up in the morning. But with a storm like this, he'll get out of bed for a storm like this. I guess we can leave it at that, right, Keith?
Can't sleep during this stuff. I mean, it's too awesome, and it was just ripping snow. What do you think of the storm overall, Todd? I thought,
Yeah.
It's pretty good. It could have been a little bit more awesome if it was just bombed a little bit farther west.
Yeah, I agree with you. It's looking like most of the communities are going to come up on the low end of the snowfall range. There'll be a couple of exceptions. I think in the Harpswell areas, that's one of them. And we'll see what happens down east because they already have over a foot too. But I kind of agree with you. It could have been maybe a top fiver or a top 10er at the very least. If it started to bomb out a little sooner, and it also moved along a little quicker too. I think on Friday when we were looking at this thing, it was appearing like we'd be in this thing raging kind of like all day, or at least into the early afternoon, you know? And it's kind of wrapping up a little bit across the south. And we still have a few bursts here and there, and we'll probably get another inch out of them. But, you know, it's definitely relinquishing some of its fierce and power over us right now.
Yeah, you know, another thing, Todd, that people forget about Nemo, the one that was our record holder in Portland, is we got 9 inches of snow before Nemo arrived. We had a coastal convergence zone there, so I remember sitting there and it wasn't even supposed to really be snowing yet. We already had 9 inches before the storm got here. So, you know, that kind of padded our stats on that particular storm, and statistically, right, it's hard to get over 20 inches of snow out of any given storm, and as to your point, down east probably has the best chance of really rocking those high totals.
Right, and you brought up that coastal convergence with Nemo. I remember I was working down in Boston, and we had, that nailed the Boston area too, but we didn't get the 32 inches that Portland did. That coastal convergence actually happened last night. That little coastal front set up, and we were cranking out snow there for a while. And I think that's why our amounts in the greater Portland area and on up into, you know, the rest of Casco Bay are so large. You know, without that coastal boundary, we would have been, you know, below our numbers. So that kind of saved us. It really did.
Right. No, I agree totally. And I think down east is probably going to end up with the totals. Just the curvature of the coast ends up getting them closer to that center of the low. All this being said, right, this is just total weather weenie talk because it snowed a lot. I mean, this is the kind of stuff that, like, only people like us say, oh, it could have been better.
Right, exactly,
you know?
right. Yeah, I wanted to see it get a little stronger, right? I hear you.
Something kind of wrong with us. Let me just show you real quickly what's going on in Portland, which is we're pretty much wrapping this storm up. It's spitting snow. Behind me, there was a few breaks, actually, in the clouds. And it's interesting because when you get these breaks in the clouds like this in a storm, you can actually see the low-level speed of those clouds as opposed to the higher deck above it, the higher cirrus deck above it. So you start to get a little bit of a feeling of the depth and kind of the rotation of that storm. Visible satellite's going to be pretty cool once we get a couple of hours of it going on. I don't know if you guys can zoom out at all here. One thing I noticed in Portland is that the snow drifts are gigantic. So, you know, when I first woke up and tried to take an assessment of this storm, it was a little bit hard to do because I saw people's cars covered, but I knew realistically that wasn't just straight snowfall. You have blowing and drifting of snow. So when you look forward here in time, that's something that's going to take a while to get cleaned up. There's a look at your radar there, and you can see Midcoast still getting pounded here. So, you know, Todd and I talking about the storm and whether or not it could have been, you know, cooler for us. It's still doing pretty well, and those bands there in the Midcoast, the way that they're oriented, they're getting a lot of juice off the Gulf of Maine, and down east still several hours left. You can see that breakup though on the western edge of the storm as that low departs off to the south and east. You know, speaking by the setup of this storm, it's actually pretty far to our south and east as opposed to what you'd consider a classic nor'easter. You think of these things coming through the Gulf and then straight up to the north and east. This one's sitting southeast of us, and a lot of its power is coming on the northwest side of that storm shield of the precipitation there. So that's something that we kind of relied on through the night to get us these snow totals. And as Todd mentioned, for the most part, we did okay with that. Now, I don't know if we can bring Todd back in, or I know he's doing a lot of work there. I haven't got a chance to take too much of a look at Thursday, or Wednesday, Thursday. It looked like we were going to maybe phase a little too late with the storm to be a big deal here.
Agreed. I think the timing is going to be a little too late. At least that's what it's looking like right now, Keith. And, you know, there could be some sort of, I'm cautious because I don't want to write it completely off, because I think there might be some sort of like inverted trough that snakes back into maybe the down east coast, the mid coast. That's the historically favorable spot. And you love inverted troughs. I know you do, don't you?
There's a backstory here, Gutner, that the Norland Trough was like the worst weather call I ever made when I was out here 5 years ago. They're really hard to forecast, as you know, and so whenever I see them, I actually get tweets about it. People are like, uh-oh, Carson, Norland Trough coming. So it's like it's the Giants to my Patriots, so I just got to get over the hump, you know, and get one of them dead on.
Yeah, I mean, they are, you know, this storm is a beast because it's growing into a beast. Forecasting a Norland Trough is a beast as well. I mean, you're never right with it. I mean, you're right in spots, but you're always like glaringly wrong in others. Like they just throw egg in face like all the time.
Yeah, it's too narrow. They're too narrow a band. But it was interesting because I didn't get a chance to look at it when I saw it. It looked like it was a little late. But it's kind of interesting because let's not forget that not this storm, but the storm before was a total miss. Then it was a brush. Then it was an actual hit. So with a couple of days left, I'm not inclined to write it off as phasing in time.
Yeah, I mean, I'm cautious with what I'm saying with it. Right, like there are some indications that this could be a larger one, not like this one, but still, you know, if the pieces fit together perfectly, you never know, right?
Right. Yeah. No. Yeah. Once you get a split jet stream like that, bad things can happen. We're gonna go back, I think, to Sharon and Lee, who guys, I didn't get a chance actually to get a sweater today. So Todd, I don't know, maybe do you have a medium I can borrow in there?
No, this one's actually large. So you wouldn't like
I think I have one. We can, you know, in my drawer, an old one.
Yeah, I'll throw one of mine in the dryer for you. How about that?
All right, well, enough science. We got to take a break.
Good grief. With some fun, a little time-lapse video we have from our Portland Tower Cam for you as the storm developed in the wee hours of the morning till now. We'll be right back with more Storm Center.